It's another one of these stories. They're filing to keep Trump off the ballot in Minnesota and Oklahoma. Donald Trump is beginning to engage with these lawsuits, calling them BS, and we all agree it's basically bunk. But here's the challenge. I mean, looking at these procedural attacks against Donald Trump, boring. Look, I get it. They're going to file in every single state. It is going to get insane. We got a lot of new polling data, especially considering Joe Biden's impeachment looming. And we got an opinion piece from the Washington Post where they're saying that Joe Biden should not run. Wow. So what, Kamala Harris? Yo, let me show you the polls of Trump v. Harris, because they're exactly as you'd expect. Trump's up like double digits. But we now have another poll showing Trump is up double digits against Joe Biden. Joe Biden was just the corporeal form they used to embody anti-Trump votes. And now we've got people coming out and saying, hey, look, man, I voted for Biden in 2020. I'm not doing it again. We've gotten more studies, more polls showing black voters are saying no to Joe Biden. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Donald Trump's going to get this massive surge in support from the black community, but we are seeing Joe Biden losing support. And that, I think, actually sounds a bit more reasonable. You know, one big political strategy, it's always good to get your enemies not to vote. Or I should say your political opponents. We don't want to say enemies, but get your political opponents not to vote. It's better than them voting, right? If one vote for Biden switches to Trump, that's a 2-point swing. But if one person just was going to vote for Biden and they don't, well, then it's just -1. We'll take what we can get. So this is what they have to do. In order to stop Donald Trump, they have to keep filing these lawsuits. And I will admit, I am so bored with these stories. But considering everything we're going to see moving into 2024 is, in effect, granular and done in increments, we've got to stay steadfast and vigilant covering these stories and breaking down the news. So while there are a bit more sensational things that I could cover, let's talk about this story from Timcast.com. Liberal group files lawsuit to keep Trump off the ballot in Minnesota. There are also lawsuits seeking to keep Trump off the ballot in Oklahoma and Colorado. And of course, New Hampshire was arguing over it. And we saw in Florida, a lawsuit was filed. Donald Trump is trying to move the lawsuit from Colorado to federal court. He's being denied. But let's start here at Timcast.com. The latest 14th Amendment lawsuits filed by the liberal organization Free Speech for the People. Oh, that is rich. A liberal organization that claims to support free speech while trying to get Trump removed from the ballot. It's beautifully hypocritical, isn't it? Paradoxical. Donald J. Trump, through his words and actions after swearing an oath as an officer of the United States to support the Constitution, engaged in insurrection or rebellion, as defined by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The lawsuit states he is disqualified from holding the presidency or any other office under the United States unless and until Congress provides him. Okay, you know what? Define insurrection. All right, fine. How about we just start filing lawsuits against Joe Biden saying that he's engaged in a seditious conspiracy, which amounts to insurrection against the United States. Why? The New York Times reported that he pressured his AG to go after his chief political rival. And as such, I think it's fair to say this qualifies as a seditious conspiracy and is an act of rebellion and insurrection against this country. Can we get anybody to file a lawsuit? Come on. Like, I don't think these are going to succeed, but why not just do the same thing? Let's play ball. Let's start filing. Come up with any novel legal theory you want, and maybe in one state you win. It's all it takes. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was created to keep Confederate leaders off the ballot after the Civil War. It has only been used once since 1919 when Victor Berger of Wisconsin was barred from being seated because he was a socialist. That's interesting. It states that someone cannot hold office if they have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S. or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Free Speech for the People has partnered with an organization called Mi Familia Vota Education Fund on a project to urge secretaries of states and chief election officials across the country to keep Trump off ballots. I'm going to tell you, my friends, these are accelerationists. What you are seeing from these leftist organizations that are trying to keep Trump off the ballot is accelerationism. They know they can't win. They know that the only way to remove the U.S. Constitution is if there is a revolution or civil war. These groups, I do not believe, are so stupid as to think that Donald Trump supporters will cease to exist the moment his name is taken from the ballot. We had Brianna Wu, excuse me, man, on the Culture War podcast. And I get this critique from these liberals saying it's so dangerous of Tim Pool to talk about civil war. And so I asked a question, of course, the liberal would not answer. What do you think happens in 2024 if Donald Trump is taken off the ballot? Do you think Trump supporters just say, well, good game, guys, dust off their hands and carry on? No answer. A wishy-washy political answer of, well, I think, in this country. Serious question to all of you. Do Trump supporters, considering January 6th and everything these liberals have said about it, liberals who have argued Donald Trump tried to stage a coup in this country and are arguing in court it was an insurrection, do you think that if you remove his name from the ballot, the violent insurrectionists will just be like, well, you got us. I guess we lose this one? It's nonsense. There is no logic there. These people filing these lawsuits know full well what they are trying to make happen. If Donald Trump wins, he wins. And then what? More jam-ups through the court systems or whatever. The Democrats will accuse him of being a spy for, I don't know, insert country. Uzbekistan this time. Or do they know, because they've claimed it already, that Trump supporters will not accept these moves? And this will accelerate the United States towards a collapse or crash or conflict. Of course they know. They're arguing it. They're literally in these documents saying Trump did this. So take his name off the ballot. Okay. What comes after this? Fine. If you want to argue these people are just first order thinkers. But, come on. You don't look. There are priests and priestesses of the cults, and then there is the mundane followers of the cults. And these people don't get the positions of power they have with wealth and resources by being stupid. There are a lot of stupid people. I was talking about stupid people in media just a moment ago in the earlier segment. But I think these people are totally cognizant of what happens if they make this move. They say the organization describes itself as a catalyzing leader in the country, challenging big money in politics, confronting corruption in government, fighting for free and fair elections, and advancing a new jurisprudence grounded in the promises of political equality and democratic self-government. According to a report from Axios, Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon has previously said it's up to the courts, not his office, to decide whether the former president is eligible for the state's ballot. John Anthony Castro, a right-in Republican presidential candidate from Texas, filed a lawsuit attempting to keep Trump off the ballot in Oklahoma earlier this week. He also cited Section 3 in his complaint. Another similar lawsuit was filed by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, a Washington, D.C.-based liberal group attempting to keep Trump off the ballot in Colorado, saying quite literally the same thing. But let's talk about Oklahoma. Look at this. It's across the board, man. They're coming for Trump. It's going to be in every single state. And all it takes is one, and they will have flicked the match onto the powder keg. If you take Trump's name off of any state, Trump loses. Worse still, if Trump's name is removed from a slightly red-leaning state, it's over. Think about it this way. Winning a swing state is how you win the presidency. Safe states, people don't pay that much attention to. We know that a red state votes red. Florida, likely going Republican this time around. No longer a swing state. So you can try and win in 3 swing states or get Trump's name removed from the ballot in one safe red state. Or I shouldn't say safe, but like leans red, an area where they don't really consider it a swing state. There are some states that are just blood red, like West Virginia. 86% of the state support Donald Trump. Okay, that's not going to happen. But you find a state that's like 56, 57%, and you can probably find an establishment conservative or Democrat judge who will say, I agree, I hereby order Trump's name removed. And if Trump's name is removed from only certain counties, which could happen, it is over. Right now, the calculation is such. Trump needs to win Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, maybe Michigan. There's a handful of swing states that are key. If he does not win them, he loses. He only needed 42,000 votes in 2020 to have actually won. It was close. If they take Trump's name off of the ballot in even a handful of counties in any one of these states, and Georgia probably will, he can't win the state because that will remove, let's say it removes 0.7% from the ballot, takes it away from Trump, helps Joe Biden or whoever it may be. I don't think it's going to be Joe Biden. We'll see. That's the game. It doesn't need to be a whole state. It can be in local jurisdictions. You talk about the Secretary of State's filing these, being told, remove Trump's name. It doesn't need to be. A county can simply have some officials say, we're not going to distribute ballots that have Trump's name on it. And that means these counties are guaranteed not to go for Donald Trump. And that means, especially in states that are winner take all, you only need to remove Trump's name from the ballot in a handful of counties to make sure Trump cannot win. And don't think it won't happen. It may come that 2024, during the election, they say the efforts to remove Trump's name from the ballot failed and Trump is on the ballot in all 50 states, except a handful of these counties. So then you look at a place like Michigan or Arizona or Georgia or Wisconsin, and they say Trump's name's on the ballot. And then you say, well, hold on. There's this one county that's got, 10 or 20,000 people, and they took his name off. Here's another county, and you find a spattering of counties where they're doing it anyway and just blacking it out or removing it or however. Now, I know there's probably some precedence as to how they distribute at the state level the ballots. I'm saying counties may just say no. Look at Arizona. I'm telling you, and I'm warning you, look at Arizona. They printed the wrong ballots. It was, a 19-inch image on a 20-inch piece of paper? So the machine could not read it, and they got rejected. Uh-oh. People were leaving lines. And then they came out later and said nobody left lines. And if they did, it wasn't enough people. And that's what could happen. They'll print out the wrong ballots for these areas. Or better yet, they'll say, we've decided not to include Trump as our right. And the state can say, no, we handle elections in the state. And they're going to say, well, too bad. Because even though in Arizona, they're going to do this in Arizona. Come on. Does anyone think it's not going to happen? In Arizona, they screwed the ballots up and said, too bad to Kari Lake. We know for a fact it happened. We know it affected hundreds of voting locations. And they said, doesn't matter. We still counted their votes anyway, so it doesn't matter. But what about the people who are standing in line had to leave? You see the pressure they create? They printed the wrong ballots in Arizona. Fact. So what happens if they go, we had created these ballots that didn't have Trump's name on it in the event that Trump's name was removed because we wanted to be prepared. And whoopsie daisy, we printed those. And they accidentally got sent out. There is nothing you can do about it. The election's over. Bye. So now we're looking at Oklahoma, Colorado, Minnesota, Florida, and it will not stop there. Axios says, what to expect from the lawsuit seeking to block Trump from the ballot. Longtime former Secretary of State Joan Grow, a Democrat, and former state Supreme Court Justice Paul Anderson, a GOP appointee, are among the petitioners. Some liberal groups and state election officials across the nation are seeking to use a provision. This we get. The 14th Amendment is clear. We get it. Other parties, including the Trump campaign and the Minnesota Republican Party, could intervene. What to expect? Under the state law, cases related to ballot eligibility go straight to the state Supreme Court. The court will typically assign a judge to hold a hearing and prepare findings. Do you think the Democrat judges in Pennsylvania are going to side with Trump? Trump could even have his name removed from 7 states. And then it becomes an issue of there's no election. Roseanne Barr came on Timcast IRL with Michael Malice. She said there's not going to be an election in 2024. She'd also said there was going to be like military tribunals, and we all rolled our eyes. But she made this bet there wouldn't be an election. And I said, let's clarify. Are you saying that the election is just canceled like Joe Biden bangs a gavel and says, because of the war, we can't have an election? Or I think it's actually fair to say, I asked her, do you mean Trump will have his name removed from the ballot so no one will think it's a legitimate election? Democrats will claim it's totally legitimate. The 14th Amendment allows for this. But not a single Trump voter, independent, moderate, will respect the results because how do you have an election if you take Trump's name off? Look, man, I don't know what's going to happen. People will refer back to tons of videos I made throughout the election cycle, and they'll say, oh, look what he thought was going to happen. Of course, we are blind as to what lies before us. We can certainly think about the results of our actions, the consequences, but too many variables down the line, and we're looking at exponential outcomes we can't predict. But I tell you this, the likelihood they get Trump's name off the ballot somewhere is really high. It's really high. Judge rejects Trump's request to move Colorado ballot case to federal court. A lawsuit brought by a group of Colorado voters citing the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. Trump tried to get it moved. A judge on Tuesday denied former President Donald Trump's request to move a Colorado case aimed at removing him from the state 2024 ballot to federal court. In a 4-page order, Chief U.S. District Judge Philip A. Brimmer sent the lawsuit back to a state court in Denver County. Brimmer, it was filed by 6 voters. Okay, guys, I know there's a lot of you out there. We are going to get, in terms of unique viewership on the videos I produced today, probably 300,000 or 400,000 different people. How many? Divide that number by 6. Is there anyone out there who'd be willing to challenge Joe Biden's eligibility, saying that, look, off the top of my head, the demand that Trump be prosecuted is an act of seditious conspiracy against the United States. Joe Biden is subverting the United States electoral system for political power, quite literally an insurrection, trying to steal and maintain power. So if they're going to go after Trump, do you think you can get a single Republican judge? Don't get me wrong. It's going to be a lot harder to get a Republican to actually agree on those terms. You're going to find a Democrat who's going to look at this lawsuit against Trump and they're going to be like, literally don't care if it's true or not. We're doing it. How many Republicans are willing to file those same lawsuits? Let's see it in the news. Is there anybody out there, any lawyers? You want to just file the suit and say Joe Biden is ineligible? The evidence uncovered by the GOP proves that he was acting to subvert the United States, to peddle influence and exploit and abuse power. Acting beyond the scope of impeachment, he engaged in insurrection. Trump's not been convicted of any insurrection. Trump has not been convicted of engaging in any kind of insurrection. They are simply saying, because I believe they filed the lawsuits. Well, I believe Joe Biden, according to the New York Times, this is a fact, demanded Merrick Garland prosecute his principal political rival to, and in my view, steal power. So if you want to argue that Donald Trump giving a speech where he says we're going to go peacefully protest was an insurrection, then I think telling your White House staff that you want the AG to prosecute your political rival is an act of insurrection as well. It's an opinion, right? So how are there no lawsuits against Joe Biden? Come on. To everybody who says, what can I do? How can I challenge some? Okay, well, I've often talked about how you start a business, make money, be successful. Boycotts and boycotts. Only support businesses that believe in your values and make sure the money is going into your community and you are empowering those who share your views. Here's another one. Start filing lawsuits. The legal challenges are well within our rights. It is how we seek a redress of grievances. And if Joe Biden, according to the New York Times, did this, and you can cite it right there in your suit, I'm wondering, I'm a bit reluctant to say people should be doing a direct lawsuit, but why not at this point? Why not at this point? Republicans, lawyers, anybody. File the claim. 6 voters in Colorado did this, and now Trump must answer for it. Okay, let's get Joe Biden subpoenaed on the record to confirm this story. The New York Times reported it. I want to hear him testify under oath. Is it true that he told his staff he thought Trump should be prosecuted and that he wanted Merrick Garland to be more decisive and take action on January 6th? Because now we're seeing Trump get targeted. I want to see the communications. I think this is more than enough for discovery. Let's see the lawsuits. You could sue a ham sandwich. Lay it on. If 6 voters brought this suit against Trump, where are the Republicans to do the same thing? What about America First Legal? I mean, you got MAGA affiliated lawyers. Where's it at? Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I like this one. New poll finds Trump holds double-digit lead over Biden in Iowa. Uh-oh. 50 for Trump to 39 for Biden. We got this one from Timcast.com. Black voters still fleeing Democratic Party, citing inflation, crime, and Biden's failures. Ooh, maybe we want to do a longer segment on that one. And, oh boy, Kamala Harris's approval rating. Let's say that Joe Biden does get impeached and convicted, or he doesn't run. The Washington Post says President Biden should not run again in 2024. Whew! I want to be clear. A Washington Post columnist wrote this in an op-ed. Here's your aggregate polling of Trump versus Kamala Harris. Trump up 5, 9, 3, 3, 5, 9, 7, 11, 10, 10, 3, 10, 3. Tie. Trump 8, 6, 7, 11. Here's one I love. Susquehanna. Harris up 15. Yeah, right. It's never going to happen. Harris has 3 polls, but overwhelmingly in the aggregate, Trump is a favorite against Kamala Harris by 5 points. Probably true. Imagine if Joe Biden gets impeached, removed, or name taken off the ballot. Imagine if he bows out and they say Kamala's going to run and maybe Newsom's her VP. They lose in 2 seconds. And they know it. This is why they have to get Trump off the ballot. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not having an election. I think Roseanne's correct. I'm going to put it this way. There will be a system by which people vote, of course, but can you really call what's happening right now an election? Right now is when we're supposed to be hearing the arguments from the candidates to decide who we should vote for. Instead, we have lawfare, attempts to disqualify Trump and imprison him. Already, it's fair to say, an election is not taking place right now. They are cheating unquestionably. They're trying to get his name off the ballot. Let the American voter decide who they want. They know they can't win. So is this really an election? I say no. But let's see. I wonder what's going to happen if Joe Biden starts getting the same lawsuits, and why wouldn't he? If your opinion is that Trump spoke at a rally and said peacefully protest warrants insurrection, then Joe Biden telling his staff to take down his political rival is also an insurrection. That's it. Because it's all just our opinion on what insurrection means, isn't it? Okay, then let's see some lawsuits against Joe Biden. Maybe I'll have to be the one who files it. Whatever. I'll file it in West Virginia and be like, Joe Biden shouldn't be on the ballot because he's waging an insurrection. I'll have those conversations. We'll see where we go. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.